And I was renting an apartment recently, and the gal says, "Oh, we still have some bars on the windows. If you would like, just let us know and we'll have those removed." And I said, "Well, don't people break into windows anymore in New York? What's the matter? We don't have any thieves in the city anymore?" And her answer was very telling. Not a computer person, a real estate agent, but she said, "Why would you get out onto the fire escape? You could hurt yourself. People will see you. You will be caught. And even if you did get into the apartment, what are you going to get? Stay at home, log into Craigslist, and do your crime there. There's no point in risking your
physical
safety through crimes,
Wow.
right? And in fact, I had to laugh, but she's probably right. Our crimes have moved onto the internet because that's safer than skinning your knee out on the fire escape.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Global Risk Community interview with Jesse Tayler. Jesse is the founder of True Anon, and he built a storied career in Silicon Valley. As a startup inventor, he invented the first App Store, which he personally demonstrated to Steve Jobs in 1993. This is quite a story, so we will ask Jesse to describe this situation and explain it in more details. But he now works and he spends many pioneering inventions, and he now works on powerful identity verification system for business, and also doing private data and associated risk and costs related to online security and online trust. So Jesse, welcome to our Risk Management Show podcast today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Absolutely. So I believe that we will have very thoughtful conversation on the topic of trust in online, and specifically safety, privacy, and profile fraud. But before that, could you, Jesse, tell us a short story about your career path? What brought you to where you are right now, and what you guys at True Anon are up to these days, and maybe describe us this whole episode with Steve Jobs and how you invented App Store, because I thought if a person who invented App Store should be one of the richest person living now.
Well, I appreciate it. You're welcome to send gifts for all those apps that you've downloaded. But in all seriousness, because many of your audience are entrepreneurs themselves, the invention of the App Store is interesting because, in fact, it is a startup failure story. In a certain way, we had really wanted to be the App Store that everyone comes to and would have all software for all platforms, and that was our startup vision. 3-4 years into it, sales were modest, and our expenses as a startup were significant. We were getting to the end of our runway, as they say in the startup world. And to use an American colloquialism, I think, from football, this was kind of the last Hail Mary pass that you make at the end of the game when the clock is about to run out, and you have an opportunity to do something. So it's an irony that my calling card today is App Store inventor, and you and everyone else just loves to hear that story. And I'm almost sad to say, although I did end up with some stock that ends up being with Apple, I don't recall anyone offering a job. I don't, there were no cameras following us around to make a movie. It was a great demo that went well. So we were very happy as a small Seattle startup to have achieved that. So drinks, were on the house that night and all of that stuff. But the fact is that was the end of the road for us. That was where we handed this technology to somebody that we believed could do something with it, because in fact we could not. So, that's the truth behind the story, and I think in a certain way it's perhaps more interesting than whatever you might have imagined.
Yeah. So you built on your own kind of experience with this platform and started more startups, and now you're busy with True Anon. What do you do exactly in True Anon?
Yeah, that's right. That experience did two things. One is it got me an early start in my career. I was in my early 20s at that time. And that gave me the latitude to sort of pick and choose projects that I thought would be interesting. Some of them are, and many of them are probably not listed on my LinkedIn because they, in fact, were miserable failures. Um, I remember seeing a documentary about the game of baseball,
Mhm.
and a very passionate fan says, I love baseball. In baseball, we revere the greats, the best of the best, who stand up to that plate to fail 7 out of every 10 times. And I thought to myself, hey, as an entrepreneur, I think I kind of like baseball. Um, so, however many failures I've had in my startup career, I've had a few that have made an impact. And as an inventor of software things, that's, really what motivates and drives me to create. True Anon is an interesting invention. It has a lot to do with the App Store. That is a transition between using physical things in the digital world and using purely digital solutions. So if you remember back in the 90s, we were using floppy disks to
Mhm.
install software. You would drive to a store called Egghead and you would buy a box. And this was a brilliant way to package software, which previously had not been worth anything, really. So Microsoft was just teaching the world how valuable software really was and how to make money on it. And the way you made money on it was you put it on the shelf where people could buy it.
Mhm.
So today we look back at that time and we think, gosh, why would I drive to a store just to bring home software and install it myself when I could just be here on my mobile device and press a button and everything happens instantaneously? There's no fraud opportunity. There's no shrinkage in retail terms, right? When I put a bunch of my boxes in crates and I ship them out all over the world, a certain number of those boxes don't make it to the retail shelves. Certain of those floppy disks are handed out to other people's friends and relatives. There was a certain amount of fraud involved, but we accepted that. And you could fast forward 10 or 20 years to a time where Napster was really, really taking the lunch of
Mhm.
the music industry. People found that digital music could be copied limitlessly
Mhm.
forever without detection. And this is what happens when we try and take physical ID online and use it to verify our identity, right? That physical ID, maybe a driver's license, it was already digital. That's how it got printed, right? You went to the DMV here in the United States and you show them your papers. A person of known integrity looks at your body and says, I'm going to open up this account for Boris. And as he drives his car, we're going to collect that driving information here on his behalf. And I'm going to give you a login so that you can pay for your parking tickets. right? That's a digital property. And in fact, it's curated on my behalf for the DMV. And that's a purely digital way to verify my driving record rather than trying to show an ID. And so True Anon is really a way that lets people confirm and connect the digital properties that they own and control, often things that we just want other people to know us by. My blog, my LinkedIn, my GitHub. These help people know who I am in social situations and allow me to verify that a profile online is mine, but also allow you an ability to review some things about me, right? I can bring some confirmed information that you know is mine, right? You know that LinkedIn is mine, and you know the same owner owns that GitHub account or owns that weblog or owns that website. And in this way, True Anon takes what was physical and trying to make it work in the digital world, and it finds a purely digital solution, one that reduces risk and reduces fraud and helps us as regular people showcase who we are.
All right, fantastic. Good explanation. So let's get to our topic. Can you explain what online trust in general and safety mean in the context of internet usage, and why they're crucial for users today? Of course, we all know that kind of identity fraud is rampant these days, but maybe you can explain better than me.
Trust is a big word. Trust is why we do anything as human beings, right? Think about this for a moment. Why do I vote, right? Because I have trust. Why do I buy something, right? Why do I make a friend? Why do I do anything in this world? Trust seems to be the building block of civilized world, right? This is what we use to make our world safe in society, in the physical world that we live in. We have trust in our government systems. We have trust that our roads are safe, that our automobiles are made safe. We trust all kinds of things enough that we find life, to be safe. Now, online, the laws of physics are a little bit different. Online, privacy is directly connected to personal safety. And when I'm online in a dating profile, the reason that I must remain effectively anonymous is partially because my dating life is relatively private, but it's also a matter of personal safety. There are probably fake profiles on that dating site who are there to cause me bodily harm, at least to take money if they can, or steal and harvest private information. I know this when I go to use that site. And so therefore, my privacy is what I use to guard myself online. It's what I use to keep myself safe. So there's an interesting equation that I think I'll present to you and your audience, and you tell me if I'm right. But I think there is an equation where transparency, this thing that I was describing, where I can confirm digital things that I want other people to know me by, right? My blog, my LinkedIn, my GitHub. And these things have a quality of showing off, who I am online. And what we need to do is create an equation where transparency plus privacy equals trust. So if you imagine that transparency I was just describing, in a dating site, you must protect those digital properties from being interrogated, because in fact, a bad actor on that site will use that against you, right? They will perhaps invade your personal space. They may harm your personal self. They may take money or harm your family. So we are in a strange place in society where we've moved almost entirely online. Here we are having this video conversation halfway across the world. It's a remarkable ability of technology to allow us as though we were face to face. Yet this is really the very, very first day out almost. And we're realizing that in the digital world, there are different rules, right? Just like music theft was stopped by the App Store and iTunes, so too can we make impractical the crimes that are related to romance scams, the fake profiles that you and I probably encounter regularly on LinkedIn, a site not normally known for being dangerous, yet regularly you nod your head. Everybody in the audience nods their head. Yes, we come across fake profiles regularly on LinkedIn, and they are dangerous. So this is the world that we're facing. And right now we're trying to take physical things like we did with music, and we are doing still with physical ID, and we're trying to use those things to keep us safe online. But that will never work. We do require a purely digital solution. So it's an interesting connection between the late 1990s or mid 90s and the App Store and the web, and perhaps the last final frontier of bringing physical things purely into the digital world, our identity. And boy, is this important to personal safety.
Yeah. I just yesterday, I think I read an article that in Southeast Asia there are some fake farms of people who are trying to steal money by using these fake profiles. I think in Thailand or Myanmar there is some lawless area. They organize these farms and they pretend to be on this kind of chats where people want to have just fun or something. They make some first connection, and then they try to steal some money by doing some crypto or something. Also, you aware of this situation?
Yeah, there's a lot of extortion scams where people will get you to either reveal personal information, send a naked picture, do other things where you believe you're interacting with a credible person who shares your interest in meeting other good people. That's why we come to these sites, right? It doesn't matter which. We always have the expectation that we're there to meet other good people. And yet we are exposed to some of the most dangerous and serious criminality that we experience. Here in New York City, they used to put bars on all the windows when I was growing up. And I was renting an apartment recently, and the gal says, "Oh, we still have some bars on the windows. If you would like, just let us know and we'll have those removed." And I said, "Well, don't people break into windows anymore in New York? What's the matter? We don't have any thieves in the city anymore?" And her answer was very telling. Not a computer person, a real estate agent, but she said, "Why would you get out onto the fire escape? You could hurt yourself. People will see you. You will be caught. And even if you did get into the apartment, what are you going to get?" stay at home, log into Craigslist, and
Oh.
do your crime there. There's no point in
No point.
risking your physical
Physical.
safety to do crimes, right?
Wow.
And in fact, I had to laugh, but she's probably right. Our crimes have moved onto the internet because that's safer than skinning your knee out on the fire escape.
Yeah, there are. I think there are not all population of thieves very educated in computer science that everyone can now be upgraded to be an online thief instead of just a physical thief.
We all know where the crime is gone.
All
Online,
right.
where it's safe. And that's the great irony. Here we are laughing because the fraudster is safe, right? They are safe. My wife was recently ripped off on Craigslist trying to find housing for our children outside of New York City during COVID. This was a vulnerable time for parents. And she found a property on a lake, and the person was very nice. And oh, the price is just right, and he's got it open all summer if we need. He's just been kicked off Airbnb, so he needs to rent his place. And the moment she pressed go on that Venmo to make that deposit, she thought, gosh, that was almost too good to be, what's the word? True. But that was it. It was done. What happens is that Venmo turned off her account because she disputed the charge.
Mm-hmm.
He got paid because insurance assures that he will be paid, and he understands the privacy rules, so he knows where to funnel his targets. He knows where to get them, and he knows how to handle them safely. He is assured no one will find his identity. He turns off his Google phone number, he gets a different Google email, and he continues with his criminal business undisturbed. Now, my wife had her credit dinged, can't use Venmo anymore. We need tools for the credible instead of playing whack-a-mole, trying to find these fraudsters. They will always be able to maintain vast numbers of fake profiles. And so you ban one, they just make another, or they pop up somewhere else. If we give tools to the credible, we are the majority. It's just they seem like it because they maintain so many fake profiles. But we're the majority, and we can turn those tables so that credible people can share that expectation of meeting other good people. And we can begin to filter out people who avoid verify. If verify benefits the credible people, well, then we benefit by becoming more so and boosting our confidence with more digital properties. But if a fraudster sees that same process as being full of risk, then they take their crimes to some other less trusted platform, just like they don't break into our windows anymore. That's all we really need. Give these guys incentive to move their crimes onto less trusted platforms so that we can share the experience of meeting other good people online. It seems so simple, yet it has become, a tragedy. Our democracies around the globe being rocked by fake profiles. This isn't just fake followers on Instagram. This is serious stuff.
So what measures can individuals or organizations take to detect and prevent profile fraud effectively?
Well, one of the biggest problems is that traditional verify is kind of a black box, right? Because I'm presenting a private document that I've surrendered for you to review. Now, there's two problems with that. One is the moment that I hit submit and send this private information, I have just sent the exact data that, when stolen, is used to pass that very same gate. It's literally the fuel that drives the engine of this profile-based fraud. The other problem is that people who abuse services are free to return. Remember my example about my wife being ripped off? Now, what happened to that guy? He's still on Craigslist, right? He doesn't have to worry about being found out. He maintains not one property, but 500 fake properties, because that's the number that it's got to take for him to filter out and get his rent paid every month by, one of these suckers. So the way services need to keep us safe is they need to adopt ways that we can separate the identity portion from the account so that they are not burdened with risk and we control our privacy, and to give us something that benefits credible people rather than something that is a black box and other people can't review or make any sense of. People need to trust themselves. We can't rely on laws or instruction or study. We have to change the natural behaviors in which these social services are run. And that's really the critical thing. There are waves of this that have happened throughout the digital age. We used to use avatars. You remember, you would sign up and get a little wizard hat, give you, well, people wanted privacy online and they didn't have pictures of themselves. So we used avatars. Well, people behaved extremely badly. And out of the dating site world came profiles. A guy that I was just talking with, Jonathan Abrams, created a site called Friendster, you might remember, but it was really one of the first social sites. And what was it doing to build trust? Profiles. Because profiles build trust. And of course, this also brought us to the masquerading of fake profiles, which use that build trust against us. But that's the evolution of how these things happen. So today, every service out there, LinkedIn, any reputable social service is going to offer at least a few choices for you to verify. It depends where you live and what kind of ID you might have and things like that. But what we want is for True Anon to be one of those options, because everybody has links and profiles they want other people to know them by, but very few of the global population has identity cards that you can verify properly online. And of those, only a fraction are foolish enough to surrender those private documents online, because it's dangerous. It will be copied, and copies can be made without limit and without detection forever. So be very careful when you take pictures of private physical documents and put them online. You're subjecting yourself to a different universe with different laws of physics. Here, you can't just duplicate your driver's license. In the real world, I can't walk into a bank and just be 500 people, right? But online, I could script up 500 people to attack a bank's front door. And I could present faulty or stolen or faked ID. And it is impossible digitally to tell the difference between an original and a copy. It's a real frustration. But if we don't move to a purely digital solution, just like we did with the App Store, then we will have this gap of fraud potential, just like retail software used to be.
All right, fantastic. So for our audience of risk and compliance managers, if we take a life of them, what they have to do on their kind of day-to-day life. So, if there is one thing that they should start to prioritize right now, what that they are not doing, what would it be?
The center thing is privacy. Online privacy is personal safety. We just went through several examples in our conversation, but drive this home. This is the essential thing. And when you think privacy first, you come across certain solutions, especially in the verified identity space, and you say, this invades privacy, right? This required somebody to give us keys. This required us to enter their properties and invade space. This required us to review private documents and handle private data. If your identity solution involves blockchain, you've already lost because you're making copies of private data and hoping that this encryption will keep it safe forever. But encryption cannot do that for you. The only way that we can keep these pieces of our digital identity safe and secure is to leave them distributed where they are, because that is the only way to maintain privacy. Once you make copies of something, you have a potential to violate privacy without knowing, without being able to detect it. So when we hear in the news about a data breach, when we hear that private information stored in some service has been stolen, has been copied, unfortunately, those are just the visible artifacts. Probably your information was stolen the moment you pressed go. Certainly, you contributed to that honeypot and put in more value for the thieves that are trying to get at it. And so, if I were to say there is one word, one idea, one philosophy for people who are in risk management to stand behind, it is privacy first, privacy forward. Begin your endeavor with privacy in mind. Privacy is what we use to protect ourselves. And you imagine your online users as being your family, your children. What do you want for them? Privacy.
Mm-hmm. All right, interesting. So, looking forward toward the future, what trends or developments do you anticipate? Maybe is there some AI solution that can help? I don't know, but what do you see in the trends in the this online trust world?
Well, part of it is an ongoing war, right? AI will be used on both sides of this war. AI will be used to generate fake accounts, to generate content that looks real and legitimate. AI will also be used on the inside to analyze behaviors and mass, right? To look at giant data and find anomalies, right? To detect. And these two things are going to find an equilibrium in their balance. One will always be ahead of the other for a brief moment, and the other will catch up. So there are elements in software, in encryption, and in how technology evolves and grows more complex that change the nature of these things. One interesting story is there are old backup copies of old Unix servers that in the 1990s and early aughts are so small by today's file standards that the whole darn thing is just a file. And even though the encryption that we used at that time was powerful enough to keep computers off your password, you could look back at these old systems and read that password so quickly and easily with today's computers that it's almost as easy as clear text. And you might think, well, okay, but those are very outdated old copies. but the usernames and the passwords
Yeah,
that
remain the
humans
same.
use are often the same, right? So I was horrified to see that the passwords that I had used, 20, 30 years ago are now plainly available to computation because it has become so much more powerful. AI, quantum computing, these things stand to both build encryption, but also to break encryption. And these two things have actually been in balance since well before computers. Encryption ideas and all of these things go back to ancient times. In wars gone by, private messages have been created and sent and cracked. So I think the important thing to remember about the future is certain things remain and change and are persistent in the digital world. Again, the App Store is a perfect example. It is essentially a fraud fighting tool, right? It eliminates the opportunity for stealing software, and it makes it so cheap and so easy that stealing software is obsolete. Same thing with music, right? There's no point stealing music anymore. You could still do it, but people just don't because the value given electronically and digitally is cheap enough and easy enough that this is preferred. So there are certain things that we do online for which the battle will never end, right? AI and quantum computing and crypto will always be this battle in an equilibrium. Other things transition and permanently stay. It is very unlikely that in a day in the future, you're going to go back to driving to a store called Egghead to buy software. I don't think you can buy software in a box at all today. Maybe a video game, I'm not really even sure. No, not even, nothing. Right? There's no point. You make an app store for that sort of thing, right?
It's like
It's just a
Netflix killed
purely
the video storage company. Like what is it? Name was the biggest one. I forgot in America.
YouTube or Vimeo.
No, no. Netflix killed the video
Oh,
store. There was a
Blockbuster.
Blockbuster. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And in fact, here's a little bit of an AI story regarding that transition. When we went to Netflix, we got a purely digital solution. We got faster turnaround. We could search for movies via keyword. But didn't you notice too that our ability to search for movies stinks? When we used to walk into Blockbuster, we were surrounded by large displays with thousands of titles in sections. Our visual cortex of our brain was used to scan and browse, walk around. So it's an interesting artifact that the power of purely digital actually overcame what was really a much better and more rich environment in person. We don't have Blockbuster anymore. But technology catches up. You probably saw Apple's Vision Pro goggles that you could put on that make a artificial world around you.
Wow.
Now you can imagine a Netflix app in your eyes, in your visual cortex, and one that takes up all the space around you. Perhaps with that kind of technology, we could get back to that browsing that we did in Blockbuster. No, I don't want to see comedies. I don't like that actress. How about something lighter? You could have these conversations with an artificial intelligence, right?
Fantastic. Yeah.
If I just type in a keyword into Netflix's search, I mean, if I know what movie I'm looking for, that's really the only thing that helps me do. So it's an interesting story because it shows how powerful being purely in the digital world is, even when it reduces our ability to search and find and have a good experience like it did with movies. Blockbusters simply can't compete, even though in many ways, for 25 years, we've lived with something worse. Isn't that an irony?
All right, Jesse, fantastic. That's why all my questions. Perhaps if I forgot something that you feel important for our audience, please go ahead.
Absolutely. If you happen to run a profile-based service and you have a cost of bad actors, or you just want to build trust in a more modern way, you can come to trueanon.com and there is a get page. If you sign up for a quick demo and simply mention that you heard about on of this podcast, I will personally pick up that call. I'd be glad to speak to your audience members. If you just have some questions or want to chat about the App Store, that's fine too. So feel free, if you are interested, to visit our website, find that get page, and if you just mention that you heard about us on this podcast, I will pick up that call for you.
Thank you very much. It's a great conversation. Thanks again, Jesse, and I wish you a great success with your company. And I hope we will hear from you maybe in a few other episodes in the future on this amazing topic, because we all feel vulnerable right now. And I know I also been kind of involved of all of them, because all of you, because when I start, for example, a new service, I upload all my documents. I ask my ID, my driving license. You don't know what happens with them. You don't know. So otherwise, you can't use this service. So it's kind of Russian
I
roulette,
hope
as they
that
say.
I hope that in 5 years or 10 years, we look back just like we do at the App Store, that nobody is surrendering private documents online anymore, that we are using digital alternatives. It's possibly the last great frontier that needs to be moved to purely digital solutions. And gosh, it is so important that we secure our future world. Our democracies depend on it. So I appreciate what you folks are doing there with global risk. I look forward to helping your audience, and hopefully together we can make the world a little bit of a safer place.
All right. Thanks, Jesse. Bye bye.
Thank you.